How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another video here on the Not Automotive channel. And in today's video, the goal is to get the C5 Corvette on the road and running for the very first time. If you missed the last video, definitely go check that out because there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened in that video, such as getting the car started for the very first time after replacing the oil pan that had a crack in it, and filling it with oil and getting a new battery for the car. And that's one thing I wanted to clarify in this video, was the reason why the car wouldn't start after getting oil in it was because the battery was so far dead. We hooked it up to this boat battery here, which has really high cold cranking amps, and we even tried to jump it, as you probably saw, with the truck hooked up to it, but the battery was just so far gone that it wouldn't turn it over. The starter just wouldn't fully engage to get the car going. So I had to get a new battery from O'Reilly's. That was another $130 into the project fund here, so or out of the project fund, I guess is a more appropriate to say. But we finally got the car started and it was running really good. The only thing that I didn't necessarily maybe get on video, or I did get a little bit of at the end, but I didn't explain, was the tensioner pulley is squeaking. And that is a known part to go bad on these LS1 engines, is the tensioner pulley. Over time the bearings will just go bad, and after the grease is gone, and they'll just start squeaking like crazy. So we're gonna go ahead and start up the car. I'm going to try and do a few things here and there to see if I can remedy the problem or figure out what's going on even more. And then the car does have a check engine light as well, so I'm going to scan the check engine light. So you know you got a project car going now that there's car parts scattered everywhere. So we got the front bumper sitting in here. That'll get brought over with the car when I get it going. But another thing I want to show you guys, I got the old Batwing oil pan cover cleaned up. I got all the oil taken off of that, and so I just kind of want to show you guys in more detail what the crack looked like. Okay, so here is the Batwing oil pan cover, the two-piece oil pan that came with the car. And as you can see, overall the pan looks like it's in great shape, but the damage is right up in the front here, right next to the drain plug actually. So you can see we got a pretty decent sized crack here, something clearly pushed up and just popped through this cast aluminum part. So this is obviously the side that sees oil. So now the bottom side that you'll see underneath the car, clearly see just a little puncture right there. And the reason why I'm pretty sure a rock was pushed up against this when the car was set down off of the forks at the auction yard was just because there's no other scraping in the area. It's literally just pop right there. If it was from driving or anything, or even while being loaded, I imagine we would have seen some sort of scrape. And I went over that a lot in the first video and the last video when we got it started. So to me, it's pretty obvious that clearly something, a rock, some sort of debris just pushed up against this, and the weight of the car just popped this as it sat down. So, but this is a kind of an interesting piece here. You know, for sure, never seen a two-piece oil pan like this on a car, but this will go up as wall art in the garage once I get the car over there. And then also the other thing that I saved that I talked about in the last video was I have the old oil filter in this trash bag here that I'm going to eventually cut open and just kind of fan out all of the inside of the filter to see if we can see anything suspicious. But I may not do it in this video. I might do it in the next video when I get the car over to my house in my garage and I start kind of investigating the car and going over it and every little detail to show you guys about the car, because I really haven't torn anything down aside from the front bumper. So I want to go through it with you guys and kind of explain to you everything that I notice with the car at the moment. So one thing I also want to go over right now that I didn't necessarily address in the last video was when we started the car, well first when we primed it, we had the battery hooked up, and when we primed it we looked for fuel leaks when the fuel pumps turned on. So we looked for fuel leaks underneath the car in the back, and also fuel leaks along the fuel rails on the engine here. And obviously didn't notice anything weird, so that's why we went ahead and tried to start it. And then the other thing we looked at immediately was, did we have oil pressure, which we did. It immediately shot up to about 38, 39 psi, which is about pretty normal for these cars. And we watched the coolant temperature rise as well. Normal coolant temp for these LS1s is 220 degrees Fahrenheit. So we were kind of waiting for the car to get to operating temperature so that we could see if the thermostat opened, and we're pretty sure it did. So that was also a good thing to see as well. And upon starting it, I was checking out the exhaust behind and the tailpipe and just seeing if we had any like burning oil, but it was all good. It was only just steam coming out the back. I smelled it with my hand pretty good. So it was good to hear that this just sounds like a really good, healthy motor, which it should be for 54,000 miles. But of course, you know, I'm always skeptical getting a new car, sight unseen, obviously from an auction. So it was just very reassuring hearing that, you know, nice purring engine and no odd sounds other than the two things that I mentioned. So basically right now what I'm going to do, because obviously it's late, so I don't want to do a whole lot when it's dark out, especially drive it for the first time. I'm saving that for tomorrow when we got some light. But what I'm going to do is I want to look into this tensioner pulley right here a little bit. It's very easily accessible. It's like the first or second most easily accessible pulley right next to the alternator, and I'm pretty sure that's where the squeaking is coming from. You might have saw in the last video I used these I use the stethoscope that's for trying to diagnose weird noises. So you put it up to it and it kind of helps you hear any grinding. So I did put it up to this pulley and it sounded kind of rough. You know, and to me it should sound a little bit more smooth if it's got good grease in it. So that told me, you know, the part's 18 bucks and it's right there. Might as well just try and replace it. Other than that, if it doesn't fix it, that'll just be an issue for later down the line, before or after we get it over to my house. But I was watching a video on YouTube today and someone had talked about checking just the tensioner itself, not the pulley, but just pulling back on the tensioner and applying a little bit more tension to the belt to see if it's anything to do with the belt. But the belt does look in very good shape. There's no shredding on the edges, so it seems like we have good belt alignment. It doesn't seem like there's any cracks. On the Carfax, the belt was listed as being replaced only about 15,000 miles ago, so fairly recently it had a new belt put on. So I'm just gonna put a screwdriver in here. I'll get a flashlight here in a second to show you guys. But once we get it started, I'm gonna get a screwdriver in there and just kind of pull the tensioner back, add a little bit more tension, and see if that helps to maybe get rid of the noise at all. Also taking extra precautions here. Don't want my new project car getting stolen. Oh, and that's another thing, the tires are low on air, so I'll have to fill that up tomorrow because I don't want to annoy the neighbors too much with this crazy loud compressor. So you can kind of hear the squeaking right now. It's honestly not too bad right now. It was a lot worse yesterday. We did try and put WD-40 and even some motor oil to kind of lube the bearings a little bit. But what I'm going to do is basically pull back on the tensioner pulley right here and see if that helps to maybe get rid of some of the squeaking. So you can see I'm pulling back on it with the screwdriver here. Just applying a light amount of pressure, nothing too crazy. But it doesn't seem to be changing any of the noise, so that's why I'm pretty sure it's the pulley itself. But you can see the engine sounds really good. No other weird noises aside from that, you know, chirping. But the belt looks good too. Like I said, no weird wear on the belt. So that'll be a project for tomorrow. I'm waiting for the part to come into the auto parts store. And it's really easy. All you do is you pull back, or you take a wrench and push forward like I did. You take the belt off and then it's one nut to get this pulley off. So it'll be a pretty quick job. Let's just do a quick walk around of the car with it running. Sorry I don't have more light for you guys right now. Even though it's a stock exhaust, it has a nice grumble to it for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in my scan tool, and then we'll scan the check engine light next. Alright, well, the check engine light went away. So it was there last night, or the night before, but nothing now. So maybe I'll still plug it in and just see if there's anything on there, like a stored code anyways, but it's cool to see that that went away. Alright, so I got the car connected to OBD Fusion here. So let's see if we got any diagnostic codes. Okay, so now we're all connected to the car. Let's see if we get any codes. Okay, so it looks like, sorry, it's hard to read. Let's see what P1518, manufacturer defined. So we'll have to look that up. It's a powertrain one. So there is a light on, it just wasn't showing, I guess, on the dash. So I'll look that up and I'll get back to you guys. But still running good, regardless. So I think for now, so what I looked up real quick is it looks like it might be something to do with a throttle position sensor, a throttle actuator. So I'm going to look into that more later. But what I'm going to do for now, obviously just since we got the car just running just now, I'm going to clear this and see if it comes back. Just because, you know, you never know what that, you know, it might be from old, you know, we just kind of want to start with a clean slate and see what happens. So I just cleared it, so we'll see what happens when we start driving it in the next few days here, and you know, see if it comes back or not, because I guess that code P1518 can lead to reduced engine power, kind of like a limp mode thing. But you know, that's just part of it, part of the journey here with this car. We're gonna be figuring out all these different things that we got to fix. That's why we got it for a deal. Oh, another thing I want to show you guys that I didn't show you the other day, and especially since it's night out right now, it's easy to see on camera, is the heads-up display works. And it goes through all the brightness. You can change all the modes here. Let me see. I don't have a lot of light right now. So you can cycle through all these different display options. You know, you can get oil pressure, oil temperature, that's brightness, and then, you know, move it up or down. So that was another cool thing to see, that works well on this car, since I know sometimes those go out over time. Another thing is, holy moly, this horn on this car is so loud. It's even louder than the truck horn, and that's loud. So watch it when I beep it, and it's cool to see both fog lights actually still work. So I'm gonna beep this thing. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap it up for tonight. It's just all I want to do tonight. It's getting a little late, so I don't want to make too much noise, especially with the compressor and filling up the tires here, because there's a few things that I'm going to do to you know, make sure it's good before we start driving it. I'm just going to kind of inspect the brakes and see what the brake pads look like a little bit. Obviously fill the tires with air, and then from there we'll see how it goes. We'll back down the driveway, because I really want to see like what the transmission feels like, what the clutch feels like also. Forewarning, I haven't driven stick in a little while, so it's going to be a little interesting to see how I do driving stick for the first time in quite a while. The last time I drove stick, I think, was actually my buddy's Datsun, so it's been a while. But it'll be fun tomorrow. I'm excited to get this thing on the road and just kind of take it around the block. Nothing too crazy, obviously, because, you know, all this in the front here, and we literally just have a duct taped on headlight. That's another thing. I'm just going to secure down any loose parts, take anything off that's loose that obviously would, you know, cause an issue while driving it. But tomorrow should be fun. I'm excited. So stay tuned, guys.